Hi, I'm Ted Slafsky, publisher and CEO of 340B Report, your inside source for news and intelligence on the 340B program. In our inaugural episode of Inside 340B Report, we're going to introduce ourselves, tell you more about our background, our interest in the 340B program, and our plans for the podcast. Before I introduce our editorial team and we learn more about them, I'm going to briefly tell you about my own career. I've been in journalism a long time. Beginning in high school, I was the managing editor of my newspaper, and my brother was the editor-in-chief, and then I was lucky to join him after that. And then I worked as a sports editor at my college newspaper at Tufts University, then began a career at U.S. News and World Report. I was there for 4 years, covering politics and healthcare and education policy. Had a great opportunity there and a great experience. And then I decided to head off to graduate school and get a master's in public policy, and decided I would get involved in the advocacy world. I worked as a fellow on Capitol Hill while I was at Duke University, and then was able to land a job at a small trade association at the time that had about 50 hospital members, called the Public Hospital Pharmacy Coalition. It is now called 340B Health. I was there for 22 years, leading the organization for over 10 years of that time, and became very involved and very passionate about the 340B drug discount program. And then I decided after that to come back to the world of journalism, and I've started 340B Report. It's grown enormously over the last 4 years, and we've become the most important source for news and information on the 340B program. And we have an excellent editorial team that continues to grow and break news stories. And I'm so proud to have them here today. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce them. I'm going to introduce all of them at first, and then we're going to start asking a series of questions that I've put together. The format for future podcasts will be covering 340B news items, but for our inaugural podcast, I wanted to introduce our excellent editorial and reporting team. Hi, this is Ted Slafsky, publisher and CEO of 340B Report. We want to thank our Ultra Diamond sponsors for helping to make this podcast possible. Our 2024 Ultra Diamond sponsors are AIDS Healthcare Foundation, the Alinea Group, Avita Care Solutions, Maxor, RX Strategies, and Verity Solutions. You'll be learning more about our Ultra Diamond sponsors in the future, but I want to make sure to thank them for their leadership in supporting 340B Report. 340B Report is your indispensable source for news and intelligence on the 340B program. We're pleased to offer a special discount of 25% off for first-time subscribers. Go to the subscribe tab at 340breport.com and use coupon code podcast25. I know you will find our news service to be a valuable investment. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to just quickly say hello to Shannon Young. Say hi to the crowd.
Hey, Ted. Hey, everybody. It's nice to be here.
Excellent. And then we also have Will Newton. He goes by William in his byline, but everyone calls him Will. Will, hello.
Hello, Ted. Great to be here, everyone.
Thank you. And last but not least, we're so happy to have Bella Tchaikovsky just join us. Bella is a Columbia Journalism School graduate and was the editor-in-chief of the Ohio State University School newspaper. Hello, Bella.
Hi, Ted. Thanks. Excited for our first episode.
Excellent. Okay, now we're going to begin with a series of questions to learn more about our great team. And I'm going to begin with Shannon. Shannon, tell me about your background. Where are you from? Where do you live now?
Yeah, so I came to 340B Report by way of State House reporting. I'm a Massachusetts resident. I live in the Berkshires. I grew up here. It's a beautiful place. Most recently, I was working for Morning Brew, covering the B2B healthcare side, so business side of healthcare. Prior to that, I was at the Albany State House for Politico, covering everything healthcare policy, Andrew Cuomo's COVID response. So was a busy few years. Before that, I've done stints at state houses in Ohio, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and even a little bit in DC. So I've definitely made the rounds here.
Excellent. Shannon, tell me a little bit more about how you got involved in journalism. Why did you decide to make a career out of it?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like most people, I got involved in journalism at a younger age. In high school, I was the editor of my school newspaper. In college, I went to Boston University. I was the photo editor, and I wrote articles for the Daily Free Press. And then after that, I just had the bug. I had to cover it. I really loved covering politics. I found state houses so interesting, and I just fell in love with being able to break down complex policy issues in a way that's digestible for readers, for people who don't have the time to spend, following everything that happens at a state house when it really affects you in your day-to-day life. And so, once I did that, I was hooked.
Okay, great. Shannon, tell me a little bit about what is it about pharmaceutical pricing and the safety net that makes you tick?
Yeah, so it's interesting for me to cover the drug industry because growing up, my father was a pharmacist, and so I got to see how things work behind the pharmacy counter, and so to sort of see the industry grow and see how policy has changed over the years has been really interesting, just on a personal level, not even just on a professional level, but I think it's really interesting to see all of the advances that we've had in medicines and how the pricing has changed, and how shortages have become a major issue now. And it's something else, again, that touches everybody's lives. Everybody knows somebody who's on medication, needs medication, has had a horror story with medication. And so I just love learning more about it and learning about how it interacts with hospital patients and the 340B program.
Oh, well, that's fascinating, Shannon. I did not realize that your dad was a pharmacist. Very cool.
Yeah.
My father was a surgeon,
Hmm.
affiliated with Brown University in Providence. So I guess we both have fathers who were in the healthcare field. So
Yeah.
very, very neat. I learned something new every day. Excellent. Thank you, Shannon.
Yeah. Thanks.
How about the 340B program? What in particular fascinates you about this program?
Yeah, I think something that I find super interesting about the 340B program is that it's such an influential program, but you don't really hear a lot about it. So prior to coming to 340B Report, I had only reported on it a handful of times when I was at Politico in New York State, and they were working on some state legislation affecting it. But I had covered healthcare policy at the state level for almost 10 years and had never heard of it. And it's so consequential. There's a lot of money there. It affects a lot of people. And with the main focus we've had in healthcare in the last decade, ever since Obamacare, really on, bringing down drug costs, addressing low-income healthcare, the safety net. I'm just was kind of surprised that it's this big thing that no one really understands, no one really talks about, but it's there.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's actually the second largest federal drug program in the country. But few people know about the program and how important it is to providers who serve a lot of patients who are either uninsured, underinsured, or struggling to afford their medications. So that's fascinating. Thank you, Shannon. I want to learn more at some point about your dad and his pharmacy
Mm.
career. I'm always fascinated by that. So we'll have to talk offline or maybe talk about that in an upcoming episode of Inside 340B Report. Now I'm going to turn to Will Newton, who's another associate editor. Both Shannon and Will are associate editors. Will has been with 340B Report for a little bit over a year now, and has done such a good job that he got promoted to associate editor, probably the youngest person to be an associate editor at a publication. So congratulations, Will.
Thank you so much, Ted. Yeah, my name's Will. I'm living in Washington, D.C. right now. And as Ted said, I've been at 340B Report for a little over a year now. I started my journalism career, like many of you both said, in high school and went to college not too far from where Shannon lives now, also at the Berkshires at Williams College, and was managing editor of my student newspaper there. And then after that, spent several years in New York City reporting on the pharmaceutical industry with a specific focus on drug development and FDA regulations. And now I've been here and really enjoying my time at 340B Report.
Excellent, excellent. And Will, did you did you say that you also worked for your high school newspaper? Did you have a high school newspaper?
I did, yes. The Falcon Quill was what it was called. That was my
Okay,
humble
right.
beginnings.
And you're from Fort Worth, is that right?
Yes, I'm from Fort Worth, Texas.
Excellent, excellent. Well, good, good. Tell me a little bit more about why pharmaceutical pricing and safety net healthcare make you tick.
Yeah, so the US healthcare system, as we all know, and in particular the drug pricing system and healthcare safety net, is incredibly complicated and oftentimes pretty opaque. And a lot of these high level policy debates that happen here in Washington or, even at the state level or in the courts have very profound and tangible impacts on a lot of patients. And so I think it's just really important to try and bring more transparency to these debates and to not only sort of understand the debates that are happening, but also really to follow the money and see which types of groups are funding which sides of the arguments, which policy proposals, and why they're doing that.
Excellent, excellent. Well, good. We really appreciate your great reporting. Tell me a little bit more about the 340B program and what fascinates you about 340B.
Yeah, so similar to what Shannon said, when I first heard about 340B Report, I was familiar with the program, but I was shocked to hear that there is a publication that was publishing 2 issues every single week that sometimes had as many as 6, 7, or 8 articles, all specifically about the 340B program. But I can now say, after having been immersed in the 340B world for over a year, that I now completely understand why. Between everything that's happening on the state level, we've had more than 20 states introduce 340B legislation just this past year. There have been a number of very high-level federal appeals courts decisions related to the program, several high-profile pieces of federal legislation related to 340B. So it's really fascinating to be involved in an area that is evolving so quickly, but also has such a huge impact on so many people's lives. And, as you said, by some estimates, the program's amounted to over $50 billion last year. So there's a lot of money swirling around. It's impacting a lot of people's lives, and it's really important to cover.
Yeah, well, great. And then, Will, you also have a healthcare background. Your dad is in the hospital world. Is that right?
Yep. So my dad's side of the family, my dad was born to some doctors and works at a hospital in Texas. So definitely, like you and Shannon, grew up with a little bit of healthcare in the background for sure.
Yeah, and my mother was the director of public relations at Rhode Island School of Design. So my gift for writing came from Joan. Certainly not my father Fred, who I could never read his writing. Whenever he wrote me a note, the famous thing about a doctor writing a prescription, you could hardly read it. But so we get a little bit of both of those backgrounds in my career. I'm going to turn it now to Bella. Bella, first of all, tell me, where did you grow up, and how did you get involved in the journalism world?
Yeah, so I grew up throughout the Midwest. I was born in Chicago and then grew up between Wisconsin and Ohio. Went to Ohio State for undergrad, where I actually originally really wanted to be a doctor. Didn't work at my high school newspaper because I was taking AP Bio. And then got into college. And I will say, maybe the biggest issue at the time was how hard OChem was. But at the same time, I was figuring out, I was in some health policy classes, and I was like, wow, like this is the type of thing, maybe I don't want to practice medicine and, be working in that aspect of healthcare, but I want to work on the policy, want to work on the communication side for all the reasons that Shannon and Will mentioned, which is that it's so complicated and everyone has to interact with the healthcare system to varying degrees. So I worked at Ohio State student newspaper for 2 years and then became editor-in-chief. And then right after graduation from that program, went to Columbia Journalism School in New York and did a master's program in investigative reporting. Most recently, I worked on a really cool podcast called An Arm and a Leg. That is actually similar in focus. It reports on the cost of healthcare. And so I'm excited. I've been at 340B Report for 6 days now. And I'm excited by what I've done so far and, continuing to report in the healthcare space.
Yeah, and great. And Bella, you did have a leg up, no pun intended, in the sense that you worked for a few months as a freelancer for us. In addition to your day job at CNET, you were able to contribute a lot of stories for us over the last few months, which hopefully help prepare you for the quick pace in the 340B world.
Yeah, certainly. I'm excited to be back in the sort of breaking news, like 100 things happening at once realm of things. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Tell me a little bit more about why pharmaceutical pricing and safety net healthcare interests you.
Yeah, so I think I'm especially interested in, the business of healthcare, the cost of pharmaceuticals, because of how splintered it is between the federal and state level. There are various programs that demonstrate or sort of are examples of that. But 340B, especially as I've learned, not having understood a lot about it until I started reading the publication and whatnot, has so much variation, right, between states. And like Shannon said, that might seem abstract and, oh, it's all theoretical, but it's not really. Like you can see very directly the effects that the different implementations have in different states. And so I really like to see and be able to track down those sort of differences and report on how, different states are introducing bills and where things work and where things don't.
Well, that's great. Well, you have a tremendous background. Not many people become the editor in chief of one of the largest campus newspapers in the country. So very impressive. And then, of course, Columbia Journalism School is the crown jewel of journalism schools. Now, the folks at Medill may not agree with that, or the folks at UC Berkeley, but hey, we're going to say we prefer Columbia journalism here at 340B Report. But if you're at Medill and UC Berkeley, feel free to reach out to me too. We don't have a job opening right now, but you never know. So that's great. So I'm going to turn now to tell you about our podcast. And this is not going to be the typical podcast in the sense that we're not really going to just talk about our life stories and all of that fun stuff. We're actually going to get into the meat of the 340B program. We're going to be airing every 2 weeks, and we're going to be both a audio podcast that you can get at all the various podcast platforms, but we'll also be on YouTube. So you'll be able to watch our discussions, and it's going to be more like me being involved in an assignment desk meeting. We were going to talk about what we're covering in the 340B space, what stories interest us, what have we been covering lately, what are the big topics of the day, and there's some very good podcasts on the 340B program already. We are not thinking of us as a competitor, but more complementing the excellent work that's already done covering the 340B program. It's kind of shocking to believe, but there will now be 3 podcasts on the 340B program, which is pretty amazing. We actually thought about starting this podcast in 2020 when Tom Murga and I started 340B Report. Tom's an old colleague of mine who retired at the end of 2023. We frankly did not have the bandwidth to do it. But now that we have a full editorial team and now we have close to 9,000 readers of our publication, we thought it would be the right time to move forward, particularly as more and more media moves to the world of video and audio, we figured it's about time we do this as well. So I'm really excited about this opportunity to talk with our reporters and editors about the key issues going on in the 340B program. And I encourage you to look out for more episodes every 2 weeks. And we look forward to having all our huge audience continue to grow. So with that, I'm going to just say a quick thank you to Shannon, Will, and Bella, and say thank you to our not only our subscribers, but also our prospective subscribers. We encourage you to check out 340breport.com. It is your best place for news and analysis on the 340B program, and we'll have information available on discounts for first-time subscribers, and we encourage you to check us out. And feel free to drop a line to either me or any of our members of the editorial team with either story ideas, feedback, and of course, you're going to give us the best scores possible on all of the various podcast platforms, and of course on YouTube. So with that, I think we're going to wrap up and say thank you for joining us, and we look forward to this incredibly exciting journey. Take care.